You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Saturday, happy Saturn Day, and welcome to the weekend. Welcome to one of the most powerful days astrologically of the year. We have so much to talk about today, and it took a journey to get here. As you know, I didn't stream yesterday, and the universe, I think, really just wanted me to go through a full experience to have a little more to talk about with you today. So we're going to get into all of it, get comfortable. And first and foremost, I would love to just get a temperature check on how everyone is feeling. Angela on Instagram says, I'm feeling the calm before the storm. The past 2 days have been fairly calm astrologically. We've just had the Virgo moon, no major planetary connections. Today is the day that changes. So we're going to be talking about Venus CAZIMI. We're going to be talking about Saturn stationing direct. Mercury and Saturn are connecting today. The moon moves into Libra. It's the dark moon ahead of the Scorpio solar eclipse on Tuesday. And tomorrow, both Venus and Scorpio descend, or Venus and the sun, descend into Scorpio. So if you're joining me live, like I said, we're going to get into all of it. If you're finding this video later, I'll go ahead and put markers on the timeline for each of these transits we're talking about if you want to revisit anything or just do a deep dive into one specific transit you're curious about. BB is here. Rachel is here. Hi, Nick. Grand rising to you, Bree. Hello, Nikki. Hi, Katie. Hope you're all having a great Saturday. Our resident Saturnian man in the comments. Hugs to you. Yesterday, I spent most of the day listening to Taylor Swift's new album. I was just listening as I was getting ready. Let's just say it completely has a Scorpio vibe, and I'm here for it. Yeah, midnights. Hello, what happens at midnight? It's dark. It's a little creepy sometimes, right? But very magical. I'm here for it. Way to bring in Scorpio season. Definitely. Doing well, BB says. Still in the lulls, stuck in the moment. Not a bad place to be. Calm before the storm is a good way to describe it. Rachel, I'm feeling a bit refreshed, just did a tarot reading before the void moon, really just taking in the Venus CAZIMI, getting grounded in love. I'm feeling that too, feeling blips of tension, but overall pretty calm and sending good vibes to everybody. Thank you for those good vibes. They are received. Well, it sounds like most of us are in a good place, so that's good. And when I say it's a powerful weekend, I don't necessarily mean it's going to be tumultuous, powerful, auspicious. These are good things. So there's good to come, goodness to come in this live stream, I swear. Let's get a current check on the energy. But before we do that, I'll just, out of curiosity, love to look at who is celebrating their birthdays today. Jeff Goldblum has a birthday today. Christopher Lloyd as well. Shaggy. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that I looked at this because this is a little known fact about me. I am like low-key obsessed with Shaggy. I love Shaggy so much. It's like a childhood thing. I saw him on my birthday a few years ago in Salt Lake City. I don't know why. There's a part of me that is just a sucker for Shaggy music. Jesse Tyler Ferguson. Deepak Chopra is a Libra. Makes sense. great example of a balanced Libra, right? And just for the fun of it, Ryan Reynolds has a birthday tomorrow. Weird Al also has a birthday tomorrow. Pretty cool. Interesting Libra vibes. Miguel, okay, Johnny Carson, Meghan McCain, lots of lovely Libras. And it's the last few days to celebrate Libra season. So if we missed you, if you're a Libra, if you know someone celebrating who's right on the cusp of that Libra Scorpio seasonal change, let us know. Thank you, Katie. How am I? I appreciate you asking. I'm doing well today. Like I said, the universe put me through a little bit of a ringer yesterday, and we'll touch on it a little bit, but I had a lot of downloads and information come through just about Scorpio energy, about this Venus CAZIMI, and not easy to go through at the moment, but I am grateful to be here with you all today and couldn't miss a chance to talk about Venus CAZIMI, right? Like, talk about powerful. Happy birthday to Rachel's brother. I love that when you get into astrology, when it's someone's birthday, you're like, I need to look at their birth chart for their birthday. Give them a little mini reading, you know? Okay, now let's get a check on the energy. The sun is in Libra. The moon is moving into Libra this afternoon or this evening. So we're almost to that full dark moon phase. But let's talk about what is actually, I want to talk about the Virgo moon really quickly, and then we're going to talk about Venus CAZIMI. I just want to tie up any loose ends from this morning before we get into the juicy stuff. So going a little bit out of order, but I'll pull up the chart and you can see at this current moment, the moon is still in Virgo, 25 degrees, but this morning it's making a few different connections. So let's go over those. Yesterday, or last night, I should say, the moon and Uranus harmonized. So the energy of change is in the air, my friends. There's a little bit of an anticipation, a little bit of like, okay, what's coming? We know these powerful transits are happening. What are they going to bring us? The moon harmonizing with Uranus last night at, I think, 7 p.m. really kind of jump-started that cycle. And the moon has been really quiet the past 2 days. So this morning, the Virgo moon, the waning Virgo moon, really asking us to release control, to surrender, to wipe the slate clean, get ready for that eclipse. There's really this like innocence and purity about the Virgo moon. But at 6 a.m. today, the moon opposed Neptune. So if you look on the chart here, you can see pulling away from that opposition to Neptune. And when the moon opposes Neptune, this was like 9 a.m. Eastern time. Maybe you were waking up feeling a little groggy, a little tired. It can cause some confusion, delusion a little bit. So you might have just had a hard time pulling yourself out of the haze of sleepiness, or maybe you had really clear or powerful dreams this morning as you were waking up. I know I did. And then at 10 a.m. So what we're experiencing right now, you can see on the chart that dark red line, the moon is squaring Mars. So when the moon squares Mars, it makes us restless. It gives us a little bit of agitation, maybe even irritability, especially the Virgo moon. We want to be in control. Mars is more just like do it, but very scattered in Gemini. So there's kind of this energy right now, if you're joining me live, of like restlessness, of like, okay, what's coming next? We know a lot of, even what Rachel was saying, like I pulled my cards before the void moon. Like we all know something is coming, right? That's the energy we're feeling. And the last connection the Virgo moon makes is a trine to Pluto at 11 a.m. So we're starting to feel that too. You can see that other dark blue line on the chart here, the moon harmonizing with Pluto in this 120-degree angle. Of course, Pluto being the planet of death and rebirth, we're really feeling those Pluto vibes, talking about Scorpio season. Pluto rules Scorpio, talking about the Scorpio solar eclipse, which is ruled by Pluto. So the moon harmonizing with Pluto feels like this ball getting, set into motion. We're starting to feel the transformation. Maybe you're already in the transformation, but a trine, a 120-degree angle, is very balanced and allows things to just sort of unfold with ease. So this harmonious aspect we're feeling before the moon goes void for the afternoon can really just put us in the mindset to have transformative, powerful realizations. Emotional alchemy is possible when the moon and Pluto harmonize. And I really feel like this transit, the moon and Pluto connecting, is what we'll feel most strongly, at least in our emotional body today, the moon ruling our emotions, because all the other transits we're going to get into, all this juiciness happening in the solar system, is going to be more big picture, definitely heart opening, but emotionally, you're going to probably start to feel this transformation happening today. So I love where Pluto is at right now, because most of the time, at least, the moon's last connection is with Pluto. And it really feels like this turning point, this transformation, this death and rebirth, like leaving the moon, leaving one sign behind and coming into a new sign, welcoming this fresh renewal, this fresh energy. So the moon will be void from noon to about 6:30. And just a reminder for my friends who are new here, a void moon is just kind of a time of not starting anything new, tying up loose ends. It's kind of a damper on the moon because the moon is not making any other connections before it moves into Libra at 6:30 tonight. So we'll come back to the moon and what's happening with the Libra moon over the next couple days. But I really, again, there are no coincidences. And once we get into Venus CAZIMI, it's like all the synchronicities. But I really love that all of what's happening today, or really the most auspicious transits happening today, are happening during a void moon. It's almost the universe giving us permission to just be in the present moment and not let our emotions be swayed by any other planetary influences. We are just kind of in it and able to experience the external a little more easily when the moon isn't connecting to other planets and kind of stirring up our internal emotions. So that's what we've been feeling this morning. Now let's get to the good stuff. What are y'all saying in the comments? Hi, Corby. Happy Saturday. I was so tired early last night. Phoebe says, I was done. It's like that connection to Uranus, and it was like, zing, this stuff, and then you kind of burn out maybe. But definitely had powerful dreams. You can thank Neptune for that. The anticipation is driving me a little nuts, Katie says. I feel that push for change, and I'm more than a little impatient. At least you're honest with yourself, right? Thank you for mentioning this. Going to take a deep breath. And that's why we're all here this morning. There's quite a few of you here today. So we're here to just kind of get into the energy of receiving whatever is going to come. And we're already feeling the Venus CAZIMI. And this Venus CAZIMI, which is just a fancy word for the Sun conjunct Venus, we're going to get into it right now. It's extended. It's much longer than we normally experience when the Sun and Venus are conjunct. So we're starting to feel it a little bit, but I see kind of a surge of energy today because that's when the CAZIMI is exact. Yeah, Rachel's feeling it too, feeling a little restless, lots to accomplish, so little time, had to reevaluate and change up my schedule this morning to give myself time to relax, come back to myself, and be calm. Good for you. Knowing what your body needs, knowing yourself. Oh, your bestie is here with you. So perfect to end Libra season with your bestie. I love that. And great to be around people who are supportive and loving during Venus CAZIMI. 10 out of 10, recommend that. Restless today. Energy is heavier today and yesterday. Well, the Virgo moon will do that too. You know, as a Virgo, I'm very aware that we can be a little harsh, you know, so that might be what some of you are feeling, just the Virgo moon, especially depending on what house in your chart Virgo rules. Okay, without further ado, let's get on to the hallmark transit of the weekend. Yes, we're going to talk about Scorpio season. I know it's coming, but what's happening with Venus right now, we can't ignore what's happening with Venus. It's very much telling the story of ushering in Scorpio season and of the solar eclipse in Scorpio. So Venus is really a main player in the planetary and energetic shifts that we're feeling over the next week. Venus, I've been saying this, she wants to be center stage. She wants us to notice her, very Venus of her. And so let's talk about her. What is Venus CAZIMI, first and foremost? And if you don't know this, you are not alone. One of my best friends who is super into astrology was like, CAZIMI, what's that? You know, so this is a very specific transit. It's also known as Venus's star point. And specifically what's happening today is even more rare than just a regular CAZIMI. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart just so you can see with your eyeballs what I'm talking about here. I'm a visual learner. I like to see what we're talking about. Okay, so you see the sun at 29 degrees and Venus at 29 degrees. And for my friends who are regulars, you know 29 degrees is called the anaretic degree. It is a critical degree in astrology. It's the last degree of one sign before a planet moves on to the next sign. And so when a planet is at the 29th degree, it brings, what's everybody been saying in the chat? Restlessness. It brings this energy of restlessness. Like, let's just get on to the next thing. Let's just go, you know? And so when the sun is at the anaretic degree, we're just restless in general. We just kind of want to get into Scorpio season already. When Venus is at the anaretic degree, it's kind of this like neediness or like, okay, I just want to feel the love now, you know? And when the sun is conjunct Venus, love and our experience are one and the same, right? Venus is the planet of love, money, and beauty. So our experience is very much dominated by these aspects of ourselves. And I was really, you know, in the midst of my whole reawakening, transformative experience, dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it yesterday, I was really contemplating about Venus. And Venus is all about receiving, right? Mars is about output. Venus is about input. And so when we talk about love, money, and beauty, love, what do we want? We want to receive love. Money, we want to receive money. It's almost this like physical or emotional or energetic value that we are receiving when we talk about Venus. And Venus is in her home sign in Libra. So Venus is in her domicile. She is exalted here. She is in her power here. And a CAZIMI specifically, CAZIMI comes from an Arabic word meaning in the heart of. So when we talk about a CAZIMI, this happens with Mercury, this happens with all the planets at some point. But Venus CAZIMI essentially means Venus is passing through the heart of the sun. So you can imagine the sun, you know, from our vantage point here on Earth is moving, even though the sun is not actually moving, at least in our solar system, right? And Venus moves a little bit faster. So Venus is passing through the heart of the sun. But Venus and the sun move at such a similar rate from our vantage point here on Earth that they are conjunct or within a degree of each other, or a few degrees of each other, all the way from October 11th to November 3rd. So Venus and the sun are just hand in hand, making their way through Libra, descending into Scorpio together. Venus will be conjunct the sun during the solar eclipse. So Venus is just a power player right now. But today, this moment, this Venus CAZIMI at 29 degrees, at the anaretic degree, is a critical moment. It's a powerful moment. It's exact at 2:17 p.m. Pacific time, so about 5:15 Eastern time. I'll let you do the math wherever else you live. And when the sun passes, when Venus passes through the heart of the sun, you can almost imagine it like this. Again, I'm a visual learner, so stay with me here. The sun is the king of the solar system, right? Very like a Leo energy. The sun in its throne, you know, it's the sun. Whereas like the moon is more of the feminine energy. The sun is on the throne. And Venus, when Venus passes through the heart of the sun, gets to take the throne for a moment. And the sun's rays supercharge Venus's energy. Remember, Venus is at home in Libra, so very loving energy, very cooperative, very focused on partnerships. And as Venus passes through the exact heart of the sun this afternoon, she infuses her magic as well into our energy source. Because what is the sun? It's giving us energy. It's giving us life. It's literally life-giving, right? And with Venus in the midst of its rays, we get Venus's influence when we're receiving sunlight. So a great way to, especially for those of us, you know, this is happening during the middle of the day, a great way to soak in the energy of Venus CAZIMI. You won't be able to see Venus because the sun is so bright, but you'll know she's there, and just soak in the sun's rays and know that you're getting Venus's influence at the same time, because her powers are illuminated today, and she almost overpowers or takes the throne for a moment. She becomes the ruler of the solar system today. All hail Venus, right? So what does this mean for us? When you're sitting out, when you're soaking up the sun, when you're in the middle of this Venus CAZIMI, what does that mean for you? Well, I want to touch on Mercury, Kazimi. You might have heard me talk about this. So this happens almost every Mercury retrograde, right? Where Mercury passes through the heart of the sun. And we always say, because Mercury rules our mental state, this is a time where your crown is open, where you're getting downloads, information is coming in with the planet of information taking over the solar system. So let's apply that same principle to Venus. With Venus ruling the solar system for the day, at least for those of us here on Earth who are in this dynamic with Venus today. Who knows what's happening on other planets? When Venus is in the heart of the sun, our heart is open. Venus is all about receiving love, receiving money, receiving, beauty is really receptive. What we take into our body makes us beautiful. Now, Venus is also very aesthetic, but I don't really see that playing into this Venus, Kazimi, unless for one reason or another you wanted to like redecorate your house all of a sudden today. But I really see this as a huge heart opener. And the more I really thought about it and tapped into the energy of this Venus, Kazimi, of this powerful moment that we have today, with Venus and the sun conjunct in Libra at the 29th degree. Again, this is a critical moment, and it just feels like this is cracking our heart open so we can go deeper as the sun and Venus overnight tonight descend into Scorpio together, come to that 0 degree of Scorpio. Gosh, you guys, I have so many realizations while I'm talking to you, but I just realized this is going to be happening on my moon. And I'm like, oh boy, heart opening. I can feel that, definitely. So for you, if you're, soaking in, and it doesn't have to be exactly at 2:15 Pacific time, just all day today, we're really feeling the love of Venus. And it's going to crack us open. It's going to open our heart. The key thing here is staying open to unconditional love. And this powerful experience, and I'll talk about some of the realizations I had about Scorpio energy yesterday with the eclipse coming. But I was pulling cards, I was asking for guidance throughout the day, and the last card I pulled last night was I think it was called The Power of Lady Nada, and the whole thing had a picture of a rose on it, and it felt, the card number was 29. Hello. You can see it on my Instagram story, but it was all about unconditional love, saying yes, staying open to love, releasing resentment. It was about forgiveness and unconditional love. It's a catchphrase, right? Like, oh yeah, we just love unconditionally. But the universe, at least for me, will give me reasons to lean into unconditional love, because it's easy to love people when it's easy, right? Like when they're being great and sweet and loving, it's like, oh, I love you unconditionally. You're the best. But what is unconditional love if not truly, fully loving someone in the middle of when it's not easy to love them, or truly loving yourself when it's not easy to love yourself, when you're not feeling great about yourself, when you're self-sabotaging, when these destructive patterns are coming up because this solar eclipse is happening on the south node, right? Which is very much bringing up old patterning for a lot of people right now. So really opening under the rays of the sun, infused with Venus's energy, opening to unconditional love. And you could even gain some insights today about how to take the next step in relationships, because Venus rules our relationships, even how to take the next steps in money and finances, because Venus also rules money too. So you might have some powerful realizations about money. I will also say that Venus to me is the planet that rules the law of attraction. What is Venus if not receiving? Attraction. So being in the energy of unconditional love will help you receive unconditional love, not just from other people, but the universe is abundant. The universe wants to give you what you want. So another card I pulled yesterday was all about actually like declaring your desires to the universe. And in this very receptive energy today, I think it would be a great moment to manifest. I think I'll be doing a little bit of manifesting today, just because I know this is such a critical, auspicious moment. But the core of this, the truth of this transit is that love is only real. Only love is real. Love is the only thing that we know to be 100% true, because yes, we feel other emotions like grief, but what is grief if not the absence of love? Many of our other emotions are the absence of love being expressed in different ways. So when we look for universal truths in the world, we know that love is something that cannot be described. If you've ever watched the movie Interstellar, it talks about how love is the one thing that bonds us among or beyond time, space. We can love our ancestors that we never even had real relationships with. We can love people on the other side of the veil. The veil is thin right now, heading towards Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Dia de los Muertos. So only love is real. That is the message that Venus CAZIMI is showing us. And by being in that open-hearted energy today, we are open to receiving. So aligning with love, whatever that looks like for you, if that's taking time for self-care, giving yourself love, doing an act of service, or just being in love with life, with another person, with your dogs, with your cats, just being in the energy of love today is the best way to use this transit. Now, I want to, before we move on from Venus CAZIMI, here's some synchronistic, powerful, excuse my language, shit. Like, this is wild to me, at least. Venus CAZIMI. So Venus, let me actually pull this up and see if I can show you, because it's really cool when you see how Venus moves. Talk about beauty. Talk about like synchronicities in the universe. Can I pull this up? Let me see. Give me a moment here. Okay. I think I've shown this before when talking about Venus, but today is a day where I think a visual will really help. It's not the most crisp image, but we're just Googling it here. Okay, so this is the cycle or the movement of Venus around the Earth. This dot in the middle is the Earth, and these are the transits that Venus makes. And you see the yellow dots here are the sun, okay? And so when Venus and the sun are conjunct, this is what it looks like. Or maybe this one. Either way, it's called Venus's star point. And Venus operates like this in 8-year cycles. But on a larger scale, Venus operates more on like a 200-year cycle. Okay, so we had a Venus CAZIMI in January during Venus's retrograde, and that's where this petal shape comes from, because Venus is sort of going back and forth in this retrograde pattern that happens every year or so. So we had Venus CAZIMI in Capricorn at the beginning of the year, very heart opening, very loving. Venus was doing a lot in January in Capricorn, and it very much felt more like career oriented, financial oriented. With Venus in Libra, this feels very much about love and relationships. Not that money and beauty can't be associated, because it's all Venus. But with Venus and the sun in Libra at 29 degrees, this is a critical moment, specifically I see for relationships. But what's crazy, I know I'm like building up to this, what feels very crazy about this transit is the last time that Venus and the sun met up in Libra specifically, get this, September 24th, beginning of Libra season, 1879. And it was at 0 degrees, okay? Venus and the sun at 0 degrees, 1879 was the last time Venus and the sun met up in Libra specifically. And now Venus and the sun are meeting up at the 29th degree. If that's not this like full circle crazy cycle from 0 to 29, I don't know what is. It feels like a huge completion of a cycle when it comes to relationships. Even us being, now as I'm saying this, like us just being fully surrendered and open to love, I feel could clear a lot of generational trauma, a lot of generational wounds about relationships. I know so many of us, maybe even unconsciously, carry the trauma and the wounds and the bonding issues of our ancestors. And so much of our grief and pain and trauma comes from loving relationships. So being open to love today, with this huge cycle, this is 143 years that we have not seen this exact transit. And here's what feels very synchronistic about this to me. If you might be familiar, 143. 143 is short term for I love you. 1 is I, 4 is love, 3 is you. So, that's just like a common thing that sometimes people say, like 143, or text 143 for I love you. So yeah, wow, just full body chills. Venus CAZIMI, 143 years we haven't seen this. We're talking about opening to love, and even the numbers tell us I love you is the answer today. Unconditional love is the answer today. Whew, that got me going, talking about Venus CAZIMI. Like, I'm just really feeling that Venus love. How are you all feeling? Let's see. My Kundalini energy decided to release this week, and it's intense with all my Scorpio. I believe that, but a reminder too that now we're in the dark phase of the moon. We're in the waning crescent moon, and we're just surrender to love. So let it be released. My friend, had a lot of release happening yesterday. Definitely some moon in my 12th house energy, but yeah, Scorpio season is coming, and you'll probably actually feel more in your element if you have a lot of Scorpio in your chart. So this could be, and I'm curious too, are you a Scorpio rising? Because that could be like a big release that you felt with the sun about to move into Scorpio. Drum rolls, roll out the red carpet for Venus. Yes, Venus is the star right now. And this is called her star point, not just because it's a regular CAZIMI, but because it really sets into motion this huge new cycle. Like I said, and you can see here, like Venus skips over conjunctions in certain signs. That's why she forms a pentagram or this floral shape. You can really get into the weeds on this. I think the Astrology podcast did a whole episode just about Venus's star point, because Venus is very much associated with the rose. And doesn't this look like a rose when you look at it in this pattern, right? Kind of this unfolding spiral. Yeah. So Venus, she is taking center stage, and she's a beauty today. I have Venus in Capricorn. I'll have to look into what that means for me. Actually, go to my website right now, thespiritualjournalist.com/daily astrology. It's in the chat. And at the bottom of today's episode, I just wrote like a little blurb for each Venus sign, because tapping into your own Venus can, we all receive love in different ways. So Venus in Capricorn for you is probably very practical and realistic displays of love, but tapping into how we give and receive love specifically can help us open our heart even more. Just crack it open a little wider so we can go even deeper in Scorpio season. This is also my last Scorpio season in my Scorpio progressed moon. See, feels like Katie, you and me are sharing a brain. I swear to you, like there is like a weird, maybe we were like sisters in a past life or something, because I was literally talking to my best friend last night about how Scorpio energy feels very volcanic. Like, what? That is so wild. But yes, it feels like a volcano about to erupt. And the eruption isn't always a bad thing. It might be a little violent, but just lean into Venus. Venus is here to like hold our hand through eclipse season, truly. I have Venus opposite my Jupiter today. Talk about a powerful transit. Yeah, you're probably feeling all the love. And I love that your friend is there with you. I think that's who was saying her friend is there. Yeah. Yes. She's, well, maybe not there, but still you're in it together. Like, have good, loving conversations today. And just Jupiter is going to expand your ability to love for sure. Might be a little overboard, but that's okay. Venus CAZIMI wants us to go overboard. During my reading today, I felt my heart and third eye open. Beautiful. I think I got overstimulated because now I have a headache. That definitely has happened to me when I have major downloads. That's all right. Just give yourself rest and surrender. Wouldn't that be amazing to clear all the old today? Bridget, you know what? Even us just saying that, even us just talking about the potential to clear cycles that have been going on for 150 years in our lineage, if we all have the intention, even just like the 20 of us who are here right now, we all have the intention to just do that and allow love to take over today, even 20 people among 8 billion in the world can raise the consciousness, can unlock healing for the collective. So the number 4 was a theme in my dream. Okay, we love that. Yesterday I had a disagreement with my mom. That's rough, but Venus is asking you to find unconditional love for her and know that you are worthy of unconditional love, even if her wounding is keeping you from, or keeping her from expressing that to you. Working on letting things go in the outflow. Wish the inflow would speed up. Still stagnated in the great material continuum. Things are going to speed up during eclipse season. Yeah, could be eclipse season. Yep, we're in it, my friends. I'm practical. My husband is in a completely different place with his 12th house transit and Sag Venus. Wow. Yes, we are connected. Absolutely. I feel that every time you say something, I'm like, she's in my brain. Okay, so that's Venus CAZIMI. Are we feeling the love yet? Are we in the good vibes yet? Let's talk about some other major transits happening today, because we're just getting started. Like, there is a lot going on today. Like I said, if you can't make it for the whole episode, I get it. I'll put markers on so you can revisit different topics. But at 6 p.m. tonight, Mercury and Saturn are connecting in a trine. So let's pull up the chart so you can see. I love showing you all what this looks like. Mercury at 17 degrees here. Saturn is now at 18 degrees, but Mercury's almost there, almost at the 18th degree. And together they connect in this nice balanced 120-degree angle. Really, like I said, a lot of powerful positive transits today. Mercury connecting with Saturn brings an element of practicality to our mindset today. Mercury ruling our mindset, our thoughts, our words. We can be very practical, maybe even responsible. I don't see this as being harsh because it's a fortunate angle, and Mercury in Libra is very eloquent, very beautiful words. But I see this as helping us kind of stay grounded in reality mentally while our heart is open. You know, like, you can really think about this on the level of like the chakras, right? Like, Venus CAZIMI is bursting our heart chakra wide open. You can envision like a bright green light just kind of exploding from your heart, Venus infusing that loving energy into your heart. Mercury is more about the crown chakra, and the third eye a little bit too, but more just about, you know, thinking, speaking, our throat, just this whole like our head, our brain. And Saturn is the planet of practicality, responsibility, doubts, fears. But in this positive angle, it's really helping us to be practical about the next steps, maybe even to ground some of the insights that come through with our open heart into reality and figure out, like, what can we do with these? We might even be having really serious conversations or serious talks. Serious doesn't necessarily mean negative, although Saturn can bring an element of negativity. But I think if we just are staying in that loving energy, the serious conversations could really move the needle forward and be very powerful. Now, Mercury and Libra can make us a little indecisive. So you might be having serious talks or serious thoughts about, like, should I do this or should I do this? And that's okay. But Saturn does kind of help us find a decision or be more definitive about, like, okay, this is the direction we're going. And so we're more concerned with like practical thoughts and ideas, less so about our imagination and like what love could look like under Venus CAZIMI, and like, what does love look like in my life right now? How can I observe practically, like, even just Venus being about money, like, where is there already abundance around me? Being in gratitude, being grateful during this Venus CAZIMI is going to just open your heart up that much more. And that is part of unconditional love. Gratitude is part of unconditional love, right? So even though we're more like practically thinking, and if it was a day that wasn't so heart-centered, I'd be like, this is a great day to, like, you know, make negotiations or seal the deal on something or give a business presentation. But it's a Saturday, it's Saturn day. And it just feels like, even though it's very practical, it's helping things just make sense today. That's kind of the bottom line of Mercury harmonizing with Saturn. Things are just going to make sense. We want clear-cut answers that follow airtight logic. We know matters of the heart aren't very logical, but it'll be easy to pull our feelings and kind of apply them to our mental state and be like, okay, practically, where is this going? What is this teaching me? Lessons can be learned very easily when Mercury and Saturn are harmonizing. So I will also say Saturn is still retrograde for a few more hours. This connection happens right as Saturn is stationing direct, just a few hours specifically before Saturn stations direct. So let's keep talking about Saturn a little bit here, because Saturn's been at a standstill. Saturn moves so slowly anyway that when it has a station, when it's stationing direct or retrograde, it's just very slow and steady, and it just kind of feels like it's stopped for the past week, and it's going to be very even slower than it normally is, kind of just at this standstill at 18 degrees for the next week or two as well. Like not even moving by a minute, you know, it's just like, here is Saturn right here. So it's kind of this moment to stop and assess, what are we doing? What lessons are we learning? With Saturn in these last moments of its retrograde, like what lessons have we learned in our relationships with Mercury and Libra, with so much Libra energy that we're feeling? What lessons have we learned while Saturn has been retrograde over the past 5 months? And Mercury harmonizing with Saturn helps us to understand those lessons more easily. And by looking back on the lessons we've learned, it makes it clearer how we can move forward, how we can have a more stable and steady future that we're walking into with this open heart, with this unconditional love that we're feeling. So that's what happens right before Saturn stations direct. And retrogrades are ending. Multiple retrogrades are ending in the next month. We do have Mars stationing retrograde next week or two, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to focus on what's ending, and that is Saturn retrograde. We've really been just, like I said, collectively reviewing the lessons we've been learning, even restrictions, rules, boundaries. There's been a lot of red tape that's almost been torn down with Saturn's retrograde. We're coming out of this 2-year pandemic that brought up all these rules and restrictions and boundaries and all of these things we had to do, these moral codes we all were supposed to follow, and these harsh lessons that we were all learning. And it really does feel, with Saturn stationing direct, like we reviewed all the lessons, we reviewed all the rules, and now we're just sort of coming out of that with the wisdom. Saturn wants to teach us things. Saturn has a lot of wisdom that it gives us, but we've been really reviewing a lot of the wisdom. And it might not have felt like super clear cut in this reviewing process, but Mercury today is helping us be like, okay, that's why everything happened. That's why I went through all those hardships. That's why I had to walk through the fire. You know, that's why it had to all be burned down as we head into Scorpio season, so we can be reborn with the wisdom of all of those experiences. So any fears or doubts you've been feeling with Saturn retrograde, that's definitely a byproduct, like really reviewing our own limiting beliefs in a lot of ways. Now we know, okay, we went there, we had these limiting beliefs, we see them clearly today thanks to Mercury, and now we know what we need to release in Scorpio season during this eclipse, what we can surrender, the fears we can let go of in order to be reborn like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So the awareness we've gained, the lessons we've learned, can help us kind of burn down those limiting beliefs in a lot of ways. And if you've been thinking about starting something new, but you've had a lot of fears and doubts coming up around that, Saturn stationing direct is like, okay, we looked, it's, you know, Saturn, very Capricorn energy. It's like climbing a mountain, very slow and steady, step by step, rock by rock. Saturn retrograde has been like looking down the side of the mountain at what we've already climbed, like, oh, wow. That was we're up here. Like, whoa, this is kind of scary, you know, like, what if I fall? What if all these things happen? That feels like what Saturn retrograde was like this moment of looking down, and you kind of feel, you know, if you're like on a mountain or a roller coaster or something, and you look at the top of a building and you look down and you're like, oh, you get that feeling like, oh shit, like this is scary, you know. That's Saturn retrograde. Now that Saturn's stationing direct, we're like, okay, but what happens if we look up? Oh, there's still so much more to discover. There's still so much more to climb. There's a staircase right there. We can just walk right up. It becomes much clearer how we can keep going. Those limiting beliefs, those fears from looking down, we can be like, okay, we learned not to look down for a little bit. We just got to keep looking up. And fun fact about this, as Saturn stations direct, it's pulling away from that square to Uranus. This is really the last day that Saturn and Uranus are in a tight square with each other. They're going to start to pull away from the square. And remember, Saturn squaring Uranus was the transit that dominated 2021. We had 3 consecutive squares in the beginning, middle, and end of the year of 2021, really bringing this dichotomy between the old and the new, breaking free versus being restricted. So much of our experience in 2021 was like wanting to break out of the boundaries that were created, the rules that were created that we all were supposed to be following, you know? And so this square is the last square between Saturn and Uranus, regardless of the sign, the last square at all until 2043. So the lessons we've been learning, Saturn pulling away from this square to Uranus, it's like, oof, that's been a lot of tension, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of breakthroughs happening, a lot of breakdowns in order for there to be breakthroughs. And Saturn stationing direct is going to create enough distance in the coming weeks from Uranus where it's like, okay, we've learned the lessons. We can breathe a little bit easier and not feel so much freaking tension all the time, because just the underlying tension we've all been feeling. Saturn has been squaring Uranus for weeks now, like weeks. It's time. Get off of our chest, Saturn. Like, we just want to be free. So that's another major planetary shift that we are experiencing today. Rachel says, I love this, gaining more clarity and what we all value in our relationships, and going back to Monday, what we actually want in a practical way. Yes. Remember, the Sun and Mars harmonized on Monday. Mars has been having a lot of influence this week too, where Mars has been asking us, what do we really want? What's the end goal? What's our motivation? And even earlier in the week, Venus and Mars connecting, like having this balance between give and take, really assessing if there's a balance between give and take. And now that Venus CAZIMI is happening today, it's like we know what we want, and if we just open our hearts to receive it, it can transpire very quickly, especially because eclipse season is upon us. Things can happen very quickly during eclipse season, but there's really no controlling it. All we can do, especially with a Scorpio solar eclipse, is surrender to the death and rebirth, surrender to whatever is transforming and alchemizing in our life. And remember, with Venus being the star of the show through eclipse season, we receive what we are. You know, it's the law of attraction. Like, you have to be in the energy of what you want to receive. So if you're in the energy of unconditional love comes to you more easily. And remember, love isn't always just like kissing and loving each other. It's like love can be money. Like, the universe loves you when it sends you money. The universe loves you when you're waking up and you're feeling beautiful and you don't have a breakout, you know, like, so we just want to be in the energy of unconditional love for ourselves and others. And that can be the clarity. That can be it today, you know? Yeah, retrograde season is almost over. A few planets need to station direct, and Mars retrograde is really going to be its own little energy we'll talk about next week. But yes, I love this. I'm thankful for everything I learned with that review. The retrogrades happen for a reason. We need periods to review what we've learned. I mean, think about school. If you just kept learning and learning and learning and never like reviewing and testing, I mean, I don't know how I feel about actually like testing and the whole like grading system and metrics. I think it's important because we need to know where we're at. That's very Saturn, right? Like, very Saturn. We're going to give you a pop quiz. We're going to give you a test. Saturn is the teacher in that way. But we have to review before we're tested. We have to review before we're able to go on to the next chapter, before we're able to level up. So being grateful for the review is a beautiful energy to be in, Rachel. I knew you would like that analogy, Katie, with all your Capricorn placements. I feel like I've climbed an active volcano. Yeah, now you're at the top and you're looking at the lava like, okay, Scorpio, I see you. Now it's like, do I jump in? Do I just burn it all down? Don't jump into any active volcanoes. That is a joke. I guess I should do my homework and make the list today of what makes me happy. If that's what you're feeling called to do, Venus CAZIMI is a beautiful time to do it. And maybe even instead of what makes me feel happy, like what makes me feel loved. You know, happiness is fleeting, but love, it feels more permanent to me. Of course, love comes and goes, but being in the energy of love seems something more sustainable than being happy, because happiness is up and down every day, you know, but what ignites love in you? What lights you up? What time is the Venus CAZIMI Eastern time? It is at 5:17 p.m. exactly Eastern. But because Venus and the Sun are moving together really all month long, we're feeling extended effects from this CAZIMI. Today just feels like a really potent moment to tap into it. And that goes with all of the transits we talk about, you know, like they can be a little bit more extended, but because they're all happening so often, we have to focus in on what's exact today, at least for the purposes of this show, right? Okay, so that is what's going on planetary wise today. The dark moon moves into Libra at what time? At about 6:30 p.m. So right during Mercury and Saturn's harmony, right before Saturn stations direct, the dark moon moves into Libra. And you know, the dark moon, the waning crescent moon, is just this time to receive and surrender and go within. And in Libra, you know, it is the sign of relationships, but the dark moon in Libra is really asking us, like, what kind of relationship do you have with yourself? Like, if you're in a dark room by yourself, how do you feel? Not when you look in the mirror, not when you look at your bank account, not when you look into someone else's eyes, but when you are just alone with you, what does that relationship with you look like? That's what the dark moon in Libra is asking us to tap into. And also in this peaceful energy of Libra, it does feel like today is this peaceful pause with Saturn standing still, with us just kind of being open to receiving. It's this sacred, beautiful pause before the eclipses really get going and start changing things. These are going to be very transformative eclipses and maybe even intense. Intense isn't always a bad thing. Remember, take it from a Scorpio moon. I can love very intensely, but I can feel all things very intensely, right? And that's what we're here to do. So we're really nurtured by relationships with the moon in Libra, but the dark moon is asking us to be very introspective and go within and just surrender. And that could be surrender to receiving the relationship you have with yourself. If you're not open to receiving love, you're not going to have as fulfilling relationships with other people. So your relationship with yourself is the basis of all your relationships. And that's kind of what the dark moon is inviting us to go into. And with Venus ruling Libra, Venus ruling this moon, like again, Venus just wants to be noticed, and she's definitely noticed. And we can really find a sense of ease by tapping into our ability to love, finding this surrender through love that just feels like the answer today. The moon opposes Jupiter right when the moon moves into Libra, because remember, we've talked about this earlier in the week. Jupiter is at 0 degrees, so there's definitely an energy of restlessness and eagerness there too, but Jupiter is a retrograde, so it's going to move back into Pisces next week. So the moon in Libra is going to oppose Jupiter right at 0 degrees. And late tonight, you might feel a surge of energy, maybe of optimism, but I will say when there's an opposition to Jupiter, it's really easy to overindulge, to go overboard. You might be really feeling the love, and kind of Jupiter will tip the scales of this balanced Libra moon. And being so in the energy of love sometimes can make us a little much, a little needy, or a little overly giving. So just try to stay balanced when the moon opposes Jupiter. It could just be that this brings a lot of optimism, or kind of, I see this, like this just example popped in when the moon opposes Jupiter, the dark moon in Libra. Remember, this is a moon to surrender, but Jupiter kind of wants us at 0 degrees to take action and do something. So it might be like, I need to tell this person I love them. Don't tell anyone. Well, I shouldn't say don't, but I wouldn't recommend tonight being the night like you first tell someone you love them with the moon opposing Jupiter, because it could be easy to jump the gun, right? To overdo it. So we want to stay balanced. Don't play all of your cards at once. Just come back to the love for yourself. Now, that's not saying to guard your heart. If you really feel like it's the time and you got to tell someone, you got to do it, you got to eat the cookie. Like, if that's what you want to receive it. But could be easy to overly give love when the moon opposes Jupiter, Jupiter being very generous and giving. So we want to make sure we're not suffocating people, because we don't know if they're as open to receiving love as we are, right? And that can cause some tricky situations. So that's really the only like tension that we're feeling amidst all of this very magical energy. I was born under the waning Scorpio moon and I can feel it all. It's definitely an exciting time right now, Bridget. I feel that excitement. And the moon opposing Jupiter brings an energy of like excitement and spontaneity. Like you might even feel tonight when the moon moves into Libra, like we just got to go do something fun. We've just got to go like, it could feel very adventurous. But again, we don't want to go overboard. That's kind of the key when the moon moves into Libra. Getting lots of downloads about old relationships and lessons I'm still learning from them. I think journaling can help me get clarity on these lessons. And that's a beautiful way to work with the Mercury-Saturn connection. Journaling, writing down the lessons we've learned, verbalizing the lessons we've learned, if that feels more comfortable, can really help us. It's like when we have a study review in class and we're all talking about everything we've learned and asking questions and making a study guide, writing things down, committing them to memory. That really feels like what the Mercury-Saturn connection, Saturn stationing direct energy is allowing for today. Like, let's just take a moment to review the lessons we've learned. So you are right on point, Katie, right on point. Okay, so talk about a Saturday. Talk about a Saturday. There is a lot going on today. Now I want to talk about Scorpio season. So that was part one. Now we're going into part two. And there's not quite as much to explain because it's just the energy of Scorpio. Like we're just going to be tapped into that Scorpio energy starting tomorrow because both Venus and the sun will move into Scorpio about 3 hours apart. So hand in hand, like I said, diving into Scorpio together, Venus and the sun. I want to talk about these transits individually though, because Venus and the sun will be in Scorpio for different lengths of time and they bring different energies. During the conjunction, it's all meshed, it's all infused, but I think it's helpful to kind of understand both components of these Scorpio transits. So Venus and Scorpio. Any guesses what I'm going to talk about now? Venus, of course, we've talked so much about her, planet of love, money, and beauty, is diving into the deepest sign of the zodiac. So Scorpio takes things to a deeper level. It's not like the next level up, it's like the next level down, right? We're going deeper. And relationships can get a little bit deeper with Venus and Scorpio over the next 3 weeks. Investments as well. Venus in Scorpio feels like a time to invest or where investments can kind of come through. So energetic contracts, financial bonds could be a big theme of Venus in Scorpio. And remember, Venus is the planet of attraction. So with the planet of attraction in this sign of energetic bonds, Scorpio is all about what lies beneath the bonds, like if you've heard of cord cutting, like the cords energetically that tie us to other people, like contracts, like debt, like licenses, marriage licenses, things like that, like these contracts we have with other people that are usually energetic. Sexual contracts, sexual connections are very much tied to Venus and Scorpio. So we can kind of draw others in on a deeper level, maybe signing contracts or creating contracts with other people, even more intimate connections. That is a contract, right? When you let someone in past a wall you've put up or a barrier you've placed, you're now having a contract with this person. Like, you have seen me on a deeper level. You can't unsee what you've seen, right? That's, where intimacy comes from. Being vulnerable is very much associated with Venus and Scorpio. So vulnerability is our superpower when it comes to attracting people and when it comes to creating deeper bonds with people. We really also have this urge to like merge with Venus and Scorpio to connect on that deeper level, not just romantically, but like I said, signing legal contracts, creating financial partnerships, even like permanent beauty choices. Scorpio, it feels like go get a tattoo with Venus and Scorpio, making these, that's a contract you're making with yourself when you get a tattoo. Like, I'm going to have this beauty on my body permanently. So that feels very Venus in Scorpio to me. Just kind of the whole tattoo vibe. I just got the image of the sun and Venus taking our hand and diving into the transformation together. They are there to guide us through this depth and supporting us. We are protected. Absolutely. Absolutely. So as Venus dives into Scorpio, the sun follows very shortly after. She's in the lead right now. She's in the lead today, and she leads the sun down into Scorpio. So Scorpio season, let's just kind of talk about some energy of Scorpio season. Scorpio is all about intensity. There's also power. Scorpio is a very powerful energy. It's the alchemist, it's the magician. It can transform things, and there's power in that. But there's also the flip side of that, which is control. Now, power and control might seem like one and the same, but when we're really empowered, it's when we're not trying to control other people. So that can be a shadow side of Scorpio energy, even Venus in Scorpio, trying to control other people in relationships, trying to manipulate relationships and force things, force our power on other people. The sun in Scorpio just brings powerful energy in general, and the eclipse season will go right along with that. Sex is ruled by Scorpio. It rules our genitals. So you might be feeling a little more frisky throughout Scorpio season, especially with Venus in Scorpio. Death and rebirth, energy exchange, as we talked about. So, Scorpio season, it's all linked to what's happening here on Earth. That's how these seasons were encoded, right? From the people who founded astrology hundreds of years ago. It's a time when the leaves are falling, when the earth is literally decaying and dying and like dropping leaves into the soil to be regenerated so they can be reborn in spring. So whatever's dying right now, and when we talk about the Scorpio Taurus eclipses and this axis, it's death and rebirth. So there might be things falling away at the beginning of Scorpio season, right along with this eclipse, right? Might be things falling away, but know that even in 2 weeks with the lunar eclipse in Taurus, it could reveal new growth opportunities. Or it could be in 6 months from now during Taurus season that whatever fell away starts to make sense because we can see what has budded and bloomed from the decay of what fell away. So secrets also, like Venus in Scorpio feels very like, let me tell you a secret. It's kind of like this siren energy. If you're familiar with sirens, like luring sailors into their death, to be in control. Definitely a shadow side of Scorpio, but that's where shadow work comes into play as well with the sun in Scorpio. So we could all be just getting more intimate with ourselves, intimate with other people. And that is where the work of transformation truly begins, is with intimacy and vulnerability. And so, we're going to be really feeling Venus in Scorpio strongly because Venus and the sun are conjunct until November 3rd. And our experience will likely be dominated by intense desires, intense attraction. You could fall in love and go deep with someone in the next couple of weeks, especially with the eclipses. You never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen. And all we can do is surrender. And Venus CAZIMI is like surrender with an open heart to just whatever the universe wants to put on your path and provide you right now. Intimate connections, energetic investments. Now, obsession and commitment are also side effects with Venus and the sun in Scorpio. Scorpio can be very obsessive, take it from me. And so as much as it's like, be open to whatever the universe is sending you, whoever you're going to meet, you might fall in love and go deep. It's really easy to go too deep and obsess about someone. And so we want to make sure that we are not forcing things, manipulating things, or even manipulating ourselves by just like obsessing about the outcome of something. Remember, it's all about surrender during eclipse season. Surrender to whatever is meant to happen. Let things unfold naturally. Don't try to make them happen right now. But intimacy, commitment, getting deeper with someone are also possible. So maybe if you're in a current relationship, things go deeper. There's a level of commitment or energetic contract that happens. Even Diane, our friend Diane, who is getting married next weekend. Like, how beautiful to get married when the sun and Venus are conjunct in Scorpio. Talk about till death do us part. Like, yes, please. Now I'm like, I want to get married when the sun and Venus are conjunct in Scorpio. And by the way, hopefully Diane doesn't mind me sharing this, but I'm so excited. I think she's going to send pictures so we can all get a glimpse of her gorgeous wedding along this river. And I think she's wearing a black dress. Like, okay, Venus and Scorpio, yes, please. Just take me to this like pagan witchy wedding. Yeah, love it. So it feels, and they're doing, I forget what it's called. Maybe Rachel can remind me because I don't think Diane's here right now, but they're doing like a tying of the hands ceremony as well. That feels very like Venus and Scorpio physically bonding us together for life. You know, it's beautiful. So this is a very transformational season we're walking into. Venus and the sun descending into the depths of Scorpio. Going back to that volcano analogy, like we're diving right into the volcano and letting anything burn away that is not pure, so that we can go down into the core of the earth and then be reborn as something else. Maybe we get reborn on the other side of the earth, or we become a tree or a plant or something like that. I don't know. It's getting a little out there, but you see what I'm saying. It's really that energetic dive that we're taking with the sun and Venus going into Scorpio. And anything fake, anything that's not meant to stand the test of time or even meant to be carried with us through lifetimes anymore, as we've been talking about breaking generational trauma with this open heart of Venus CAZIMI. Anything that needs to fall away is going to fall away in the coming weeks. And when it does fall away, it will reveal deeper truths. It will allow us to get more intimate with ourselves. And from these deeper truths, from this deeper level of vulnerability and intimacy, we can start anew, and we can start with more empowerment and with more truth. Really, like, this is all about getting to the truth of things, to the bottom of things. That is what Scorpio is all about. Ooh, Scorpio rising and Venus in Scorpio. So all of this is happening probably in your 12th house, but it's going to move into your first house and talk about transformation for you, Corby. Like, the dying of the 12th house, the rebirth of the first house, when the sun and Venus cross over your ascendant, I feel like you're going to be a whole new person. Yes, for all of us Scorpios, we can marry ourselves. Truly, though, like, I just saw this amazing photographer here locally in the Sacramento area just posted about this ceremony that she photographed where women married themselves and made vows to themselves and got all dressed up in white dresses and walked up to an altar and married themselves. And so, as much as we're talking about unconditional love and an open heart and being open to receiving love, remember, you have to truly unconditionally love yourself to be in a relationship where you can receive unconditional love. And marry yourself today with Venus CAZIMI. Take yourself on a date. Like, I fully support this. I love that. Scorpio's in my second house too. So this could be a really transformational point when it comes to money, when it comes to your values, things that are ruled by the second house. Could be really big financial opportunities or transformations that you're undergoing right now. Yeah, you're a Scorpio rising. I feel a rebirth energy coming for you too. Same thing I just told to Corby. I looked at her chart for the time she gets married. We looked into it a little bit too. There's a lot of support. Yeah, I'm so excited. I should write a synopsis of her day with the energy. You absolutely should. That would be so amazing. I love that. Okay. Yes, I appreciate you, Katie. These transits will likely be intense for you. Yes, but I'm going to reach out to my support system. Open yourself to receive that unconditional love. You deserve it. And yeah, before I'm really in the thick of it, yes, peace is available to me. Peace is available to you in any moment, even just with a deep breath, just knowing I'm alive, I'm supported, I can be in control of myself. Yes. And when it comes to obsession and control with all this Scorpio energy we're talking about, remember, you are the only person you can actually control. So if you're trying to manipulate and control situations, people, if you fall into the shadow side of Scorpio, we've all been there. There's no shame in it. It's okay. Come back to, how can I be more in control? How can I feel more in control in my body right now? Do I need to take space? Do I need to try tapping? Tapping would be a great practice to pick up during eclipse season. So just like, what can I do right now for me to feel more in control so I don't have the urge to control or manipulate other people? Ooh, Scorpio sun with a lot of Sag energy. You're probably going to feel more towards the end of eclipse season with all of your Sag energy, and it depends on your rising sign. Really, we need to know your rising sign to understand truly like how to work with this, but your Scorpio sun definitely going to be feeling it, you know, definitely going to be feeling that transformation of self with your sun in Scorpio. Called me out. Never calling you out, just sending you love. Yes. I love how much you guys love each other, like, and from across the continent, it's just Libra rising. Okay, so for you, Scorpio, this will probably be happening all in your first house. So again, transformation of self for you, Sunny 777. It's going to be a very transformative time of like, who am I and who am I becoming this eclipse season? And relationships as well with the Taurus eclipse will be highlighted for you most likely. So really leaning into like, who do I want to be? Who am I becoming? What parts of myself need to fall away so I can be reborn into this next version of myself? And that really goes for all of us, but specifically if you're like a Scorpio rising or a Libra rising, because this solar eclipse is at 1 degree, we're really feeling that if we're a Libra rising or if it's in the first house for you. Okay, so let's just talk about one more transit with this dark moon in Libra that's happening on Sunday, and then we'll close out together. We've had a lot to go over, but the dark moon in Libra at 7 p.m. on Sunday. The moon doesn't make any connections on Sunday. We're really just integrating the Scorpio energy that happens overnight, because remember, the Sun and Venus move into Scorpio in the middle of the night, and then it's kind of quiet. Then we're in this quiet lull of like, okay, the intensity is here, like, and the Sun and Venus will be at 0 degrees in Scorpio. We'll probably have this eagerness to like be really intense tomorrow, like really go deep with people. We don't have to get it all done right away. Like, remember, we're in a state of surrender. We're under the dark moon. Just let things happen. The intensity will happen on its own, I promise. But at 7 p.m., the moon opposes Chiron. The only connection the Libra moon makes all day on Sunday is an opposition to Chiron on Sunday night. This is the dark moon where we can barely see the moon. It's just a little sliver. We're seeing the dark side of the moon, in fact. And the dark moon is really revealing our shadows. And as it opposes Chiron, it can reveal our triggers, our woundings, the things that we still need to let go of during eclipse season. But remember, facing our own darkness is the first step into the light, is the first step into healing. So surrender to triggers as they pop up. See them almost as symptoms or imbalances under the dark moon in the sign of the scales in Libra. Any imbalances that need to be addressed, like, oh, that thing is still triggering me. How can I address this? How can I feel more in control of my own body and my own self? And how can I just surrender deeper? Tomorrow, with all of this Scorpio energy, it's like, just surrender even deeper. Just let the alchemy happen. Just be in the death. Let it all fall away. Let it crumble, because usually there's a quantum crumble before a quantum leap, and that really feels like what's happening leading up to this eclipse in Scorpio. And the quantum crumble, sometimes we have to be crumbling. Sometimes we have to let things fall away in order to really understand unconditional love for ourselves. Like, who are we without all the pretty things? Who are we without the money? Who are we without the relationships? Sometimes the universe pulls everything away from us for us to see the truth of the matter. And that feels very Scorpio, for us to understand that we are the light in the darkness. And that is a powerful thing. And actually, that brings us to our affirmation of the weekend. I am not afraid of the dark because I am the light. I'm not afraid of the dark because I light up the room. I'm not afraid of everything falling away because I know that I am capable and powerful of creating even more light. So there's no need to fear heading into Scorpio season. There's no need to fear heading into the eclipses, because you are the light in the darkness. And you are the phoenix that will rise from the ashes. We just have to let all the excess stuff around that light burn away for you to really fully see how brightly you shine. And that is powerful. Okay, Scorpio rules my second into the third. Same here. I've been researching and I feel like the houses kind of blend together. Yeah, second house is all about values and money. Third house is more about information, taking in information, communication. So, you'll probably feel both of those energies throughout Scorpio season. What about lots of Pisces risings talking? Let's see. Pisces risings. This will be ruling your 9th house, I believe. Yes. your 9th house. Very expansive time for you, very expansive eclipses for you, Pisces rising. So again, just surrender to the expansion. How are you growing? What adventures are on your heart that you want to go on, energetically and physically? Maybe you're feeling like you want to travel and there's this deep longing to see other cultures and other parts of the world. Or Pisces risings, you know, maybe you're just realizing spiritually, this is a time of expansion for you. Like you're opening yourself up, you're going bigger, your heart is expanding more than you even thought was possible. And on Tuesday, I'm so excited. My friend Court from Bravely Beautiful brand is joining me, and we're going to be diving into specifically the Scorpio solar eclipse and what it means for each sign. So I'm not going to get too far into it because we've already been on here for a long time. Oh, I love that. I love when your comments support each other. That's amazing. And so many Pisces risings here. Wow. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Yeah, exactly. That is how the cookie crumbles. But it's like if the cookie was like a ball of light surrounded by cookie, you know, and then the cookie crumbles and we're like, oh, we didn't even need the cookie. Like we just have love instead. Now I'm losing it. I'm getting a little delusional. Yes, you are the light in the darkness. I love that this has helped you. Gonna take yourself on a date. Beautiful, beautiful. 12th house Scorpio, it's going to be an intense eclipse season, but you're going to be reborn from it. The affirmation reminds me, I've been in the dark before and emerged with more light than I thought possible. The light is possible at the end of this dark time for me. Absolutely. And that's something I needed to hear too, Katie. And that's where Be the Light was born from. Truly, in my darkest hour, I got a message, be the light. And then I found it. I found my light. I found my purpose. And, I've been very upfront and vulnerable with you all because I want this community to feel like real between all of us. It's not been an easy season for me, and I've dealt with a lot of darkness in my life before, but this is the first time that I feel like I'm guided, that I feel like I can pull an oracle card or call on my angels and like that I have a purpose. And so coming back to knowing that you're here for a reason, that you are a light in this world, you can walk through any darkness that comes your way. Oh yeah, all of these Scorpio placements are going to get activated for you. Have a beautiful day, Bridget. Okay, so as we always do, we're going to close out with a tarot pull. And we got a pull from the Rose Oracle, talking so much about Venus CAZIMI. Specifically, I'm going to ask for a message about this Sun-Venus conjunction and their dive. Venus and the Sun diving into the underworld, into Scorpio together. We're going to get a Venus message today. And as I'm shuffling, I just want to share with you a realization I had yesterday in the midst of some really intense, powerful emotions. The moon moving through my 12th house, just like a real big emotional purge for me personally. But I had a lot of insights about Scorpio energy specifically. And I was in the depths of my emotions, like just waves of crying, waves of grief, waves of intensity coming up for me. And I realized that letting myself fully feel emotions, because so often we feel emotions and we're like, oh, I don't want to feel that. I want to shut it down. Like I shouldn't be crying right now. I don't want to cry. Just stop crying. But I just have been leaning into just letting myself cry, letting myself feel it all. And as I did that, I swear to you, it felt like I was on a psychedelic journey. And I say that having been on psychedelic journeys before, just being fully in my emotions and witnessing them, witnessing the release, surrendering to them, felt like a full tapping into this undercurrent of energy, which is often what kind of doing psychedelics feels like you're aware of like this more powerful, potent energy that we're all a part of. And so I just was like, okay, this is what the Scorpio eclipses are all about. Surrendering deeper, surrendering to it all, surrendering to the hard, surrendering to the beautiful, and just riding the waves. And the reason I think it felt so much like a psychedelic journey is because when you're in a journey like that, regardless of, what kind of psychedelic you're doing, you're just along for the ride. You are not in control. Like you are not steering the ship. Not that you're like completely out of control of your body, but you're very much aware of like, okay, I made this choice and now I've got to take whatever comes from it, right? And so I think if intense emotions are coming up, I share this because letting yourself just fully feel them instead of shutting down or closing off from them can bring so much wisdom. And then I noticed too, I would be in this wave of emotion and I'd be crying and I would be like releasing all this stuff and just letting it come out. And then I would have this like download or insight about like, oh, I should do this next. Like it was the most wild experience of just like, oh, that's a good idea. In the middle of like intense grief and like pain and processing, I was just like riding these waves of inspiration and death. And it felt very Scorpio, like death and rebirth, but all happening at the same time. Yeah, it was really cool. It was not fun, but it was really cool. And yeah, Bridget says that's how I felt yesterday. I couldn't do anything. Things were moving in my visual and I felt like, wow, this is a crazy high right now. And our emotions do release tons of endorphins and chemicals in our body, like crying and all these emotions, and similar to like what psychedelics do, right? They like release all of these things in our body. But it's interesting, you know, we don't have to seek a high with any substance. Like life can be a high and it can be a low and it can be all the things in between. And if we are just willing to ride the wave and accept and surrender to whatever we're feeling in the moment, whatever is moving through us, there's so much insight to be gained. So yeah, just surrender to it all is the message that came through. And then of course, we're not here to just be happy. We're here to feel it all. And out of my greatest darknesses have come some of my most profound ideas and life shifts. And so that might be something to carry with you into the eclipse season, into Scorpio season, and through this Venus CAZIMI. Oh, thank you. You are a beautiful soul, and we are so, so grateful you are here. Christina says, I know the path I am on is complex and not for me to know the outcome, and that my loved ones in spirit are around me to love me through. Ooh. That's an affirmation in itself. Like I need to write that down. I know the path I am on is complex and not for me to know the outcome. I'm not in control. And that my loved ones in spirit are around to love me through. And that has been very helpful for me too. Like when I'm just on my knees, like, okay, angels, just support me. Just love me a little bit. Thank you. We can thank my Scorpio moon for the depth here. Thanks, Nick. Rachel says, it's so comforting to have this community. I am so thankful I don't feel alone anymore. You're not alone. It's helping me realize my power and uniqueness. Thank you so much. You really are a blessing. You are a blessing to me, Rachel. All of you being here, sharing your wisdom, sharing your light, showing up for each other, sending each other love in the comments. That's huge. Like having community, having people that you can actually talk about your feelings with, even over a chat, is incredible. And I'm so proud of each and every one of you. Okay, we're only a few hours away from this exact Venus CAZIMI, but Venus, she's taken the throne. So let's see what message that she has for us. If we can all, whether you're joining me live or finding this video later, let's just take this moment, this sacred pause that we've talked about with Saturn at a standstill today. Let's take this sacred pause for a deep breath to receive. Here we go. Breathe in. And release. What do we need to know? After the rain is the card that came through. Silver lining, relief, hope, mercy. It's over. Acceptance. Ooh. Okay. After the rain. How beautiful. Already, I don't even know what the card means, and it's already beautiful. Very Venus CAZIMI. I will say during Venus CAZIMI, life will probably just seem a little more beautiful today. Even like the pain of life can feel beautiful. Very Scorpio, right? Like that's very, oh, and this is the first card in the deck. This is the first card in the deck. Talk about rebirth energy. There's something very special and sacred about the moment after it stops raining. The atmosphere has released it all that it was holding, and in turn, the earth has been cleansed, replenished, and nourished. It's a similar feeling to the moment after we stop crying. As those salty healing waters fall, they activate oxytocin and endorphins, which create a shift in how we feel. What was once overwhelming now seems possible, and while we might not know it consciously, noticeable growth will soon follow. After the rain is all about hope, healing, beginnings, and endings. Emotions are soothed, broken hearts are on the mend, times of trial are over. Mercy can be felt. There is a moment of relief. A new, encouraging silver lining can now be made out of the distance. What's been challenging and difficult has or is about to ease up. If you've been going through a challenging time, this card is here to reassure you that things are about to ease. You've been through the worst of it, and now hope is here. These past weeks, months, or even years have not been straightforward. They've likely asked you to dig deep and endure hardships that have tested you. But now, at long last, there are smooth seas ahead. What you've learned and how you've grown can never be taken from you. And now it's time to enjoy the warmth of the blessings that life has in store for you. Glorious beginnings are now possible. Glorious new beginnings are now possible. And the soul inquiry, the question this asks, it's a very light card. I'm trying to see if you can see it. What are you ready to release? What are you ready to release? That is what came through. I'm going to turn this down so you can actually see the card. She's just standing over the water, fully surrendered. It almost looks like Venus CAZIMI. She's just surrendering to the sun up above. And of course, with the sun conjunct Venus today, we know she hands on her heart. She's just open, surrendered, accepting, and ready to release. And I think we can all visualize this today as we bask in the rays of Venus CAZIMI. Literally, it's raining today. So what are you releasing with the rain? What are you letting wash away so that you can have a new beginning when the sun comes out again? I love this. Rain is one of my favorite weathers. I always feel renewed, and it's so clearing. And for those of us like Katie and I who have been feeling those challenges coming up, of course, we all feel challenges all the time. Just know that whatever hardship that you were thinking of or that was on your heart, as we were reading that oracle card, things are going to ease up. Rebirth is possible. I can see clearly now. Yep, that's the song to play today. Absolutely. It just started raining here after months of not raining. Beautiful. Let that rain wash it all away. BB says, I have a question. When we look up where the transits are we using rising sun or sun sometimes? What happens when it's neither that matches the transits in a specific house? I'm not sure I fully follow. Let me look up where the transits are. So I just look at where the sun is in general. I just look at where the sun is. It's not where the sun is on the horizon. I think I see what you're saying. You don't look at where the rising is. Look at where the sun is when you're looking at the transits, because the rising is changing constantly because the sun is moving constantly from our vantage point here on Earth. So it constantly changes the rising, but the sun is at a fixed point in the stars, in the constellations that we're tracking. And even though we can't see it because the sun is out, right? So look at where the actual sun, the circle with the dot, is when you're tracking the transits, not where the rising is. I think that answers your question. I hope it does. All right, everybody. That was a lot to get through today, but so many of you hung with me through it and surrendered and had open hearts throughout this conversation. And I'm so, so grateful for each and every one of you. Remember, it's always most beautiful when the sun comes out after the rain. And maybe you're in the middle of the storm right now. Maybe eclipse season brings another storm, but there's always that beautiful rainbow that comes out after the rain. And so have hope for the rainbow. That unconditional love we feel today can be the knowing that the rainbow will come out, even if we're in the darkness. I love you all. I'm so grateful for this day. I'm so grateful for this conversation we've had. I got the Star Hope card today in my reading. Oh, the star. I love the star card. Really in synchronicity. Yeah, there is hope and it will always work out the way it's supposed to. Release the fear. A beautiful way to end our episode. Sending you all so much love. I will be back with you all on Monday morning to have our first episode during Scorpio season. Get us ready for the eclipse on Tuesday. But I hope that you have some beauty in your day today and that this Venus CAZIMI blesses you with all of the unconditional love. Know that I am sending so much love to each and every one of you. And I see you all as so loved and so beautiful and just the brightest lights who continue to shine even brighter every day. All right. I'll see you next week, everyone. But until I see you next, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.